Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Shooting the Shit Uncensored. Today, I'm joined by a special guest, Corporal Robinson. I'll be bringing him out in just one moment. But just to let you guys know, to join up at Multi-Continental Wrestling Alliance, we're currently at 430-something members. Once we get to 500, we'll be doing a free giveaway. So to be eligible for that giveaway, you just need to be a member of our Facebook group and also subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Multi-Continental Wrestling Alliance. Guys, now, without further ado, I'm going to bring him out right now. This is Corporal Robinson. Corp, thanks for joining me, brother. How you doing?
Doing great, bro. How you doing, man?
Mate, I'm sensational. I'm talking with a deathmatch wrestling fucking legend. How much more excited could I be right now, man?
Fuck yeah, man. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys, man.
Thanks very much. Look, we'll get started into it, Corp. We'll have the comments open, so all our viewers, please feel free to shoot it. If you want to ask something to Corp, throw it up in the comments, and we'll make sure to get to it. So, Corp, before we get started, bro, into the wrestling, I just wanted to talk just about how you grew up, man. I read somewhere that you got started watching USWA.
Yeah.
You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, see, I grew up in a real small town, in southern Indiana. And every Saturday, USWA would be on, Lawler and Tojo Yamamoto and Dutch and, all these guys I know now. But that's what me and my dad would watch before we went fishing every Saturday. So we'd wake up, watch wrestling, and then we'd go fishing. That was an every Saturday thing. You know what I'm saying? So I grew up a big fan of the USWA style. So growing up, watching, every Tuesday night Louisville Gardens, and then that's when WWE started getting, it was WWF, started getting more of the fam. That I watched the first WrestleMania at my grandma's house, you know what I'm saying? Things like that. That's when the Hulkamania stuff. But I was always more of a fan of the violence, Eddie Gilbert setting people on fire and, Lawler throwing the fireball and Tojo hitting people with the kendo stick and shit like that. That was like, yeah, that got my blood boiling. So yeah, that's what I grew up on, man, was the Southern style wrestling.
Yeah, and look, I in Australia, I didn't really get much of it, but now, obviously with the wonders of the internet, I'm able to sort of go back and watch a lot of that stuff. And man, those matches were fucking brutal, bro. They beat the fuck out of each other,
They sure did.
So what was the moment that really got you, like, sort of going, holy fuck, I need to get into this. I need to be a part of this. I want to get in this business.
The funny thing was about that is when we went to that show that night, what had happened was I'd just gotten back. I'd done my final tour and we were coming home for the first time to be home. I was doing recruiting duty, but I was getting ready. I was stationed at home in Clarksville, Indiana. And it was a Tuesday night. So we're like, fuck it, let's go watch some wrestling. So me and two other Marines went down there to watch some wrestling. And it was it was Jamie and Wolfie, which was PG-13, against Doug Gilbert and Tommy Rich, which were the heels. We were sitting front row in the back towards the back area right there when they first come out. Well, Doug reaches over and is like, you Marines ain't nothing but a bunch of fucking pussies. Well, we've been drinking for fucking 7-10 hours already. We were already drunk as fuck. And I drilled him, right hook, bow, blew his nose out right there. So security coming through, they're drinking. They dragged me to the back, out the back door, and Jesse James Armstrong and them were there, and a bunch of the wrestlers circled around, and I'm thinking I'm getting ready to fucking get my ass beat. All these big dudes were there, all of them. So I thought I was getting ready to die. And they asked me, like, you ever thought about joining a wrestling school? That's the fastest punch we ever saw. And that's how I ended up going to school. I ended up teaming up with Blaze, my partner back then, and things like that, and starting a wrestling school. I'd actually started training a little bit earlier with WCWO, doing some small time shit, you know what I'm saying? But it wasn't nothing big. And then Tracy Smothers found me, on the road with a smaller one and brought me down. So that's how it all went up.
And how did you find, like, first breaking into the professional wrestling business, and taking that first bump? Yeah,
it was a dream come true. You know, they started me with the Corporal Robinson gimmick. You know what I'm saying? I came out waving the American flag, coming out to Born in the USA, you know, all that. I was the biggest baby face you could be. And was eating it up, you know. And like I said, I was green as fuck, but I was starting to get TV time. See, Lawler had sold it to two companies, and Mike Samples had taken over that part of it. So it was known as KCW, Kentuckiana Championship Wrestling, and he was running the Louisville Gardens in Evansville and things like that, but he had the TV deal. So I was on TV. That's when my first TV exposure ever was going with them guys. And that's where actually Ian Rotten found me. Was he was flying on Tuesday nights. He was flying you know, for the IWA shows. You know, we ended up checking IWA out, and that's where I fell in love.
And that's the thing. Like a lot of people might not know is that you actually started out as just doing straight wrestling, the hardcore
straight wrestling. Yep. Yeah. No, I knew nothing about no hardcore shit.
Yeah. And that's obviously, you around the same time in the late 90s or 96, 97 when ECW was running wild. You saw that, and that was something that I heard you say previously that really sort of intrigued you in.
Yeah, man, I love the ECW style, man. I loved it. I loved the Sabu and Terry Funk and, you know, Dreamer and Raven feud. And, you know, I loved all that shit, man. You know, I liked the violence, you know what I'm saying? I liked being able to, you know, when you're watching something, which I'm real big on it now, reality, you know what I'm saying? I want to be able to, you watch a match going, that shit wasn't fake, you know, that shit's real. You know, I want that impression on every single person watching my matches.
And that's the thing where I think the hardcore and probably now the deathmatch stuff, it's like you watch it and the punishment that the guys take. And to be honest, I have the utmost respect for deathmatch wrestling, because there's good deathmatch wrestling and there's bad deathmatch wrestling. There's
Correct.
Good deathmatch workers and there's bad deathmatch workers. And
Yes.
the thing is as well, you have to be able to tell a story. You have to know the fundamentals of a wrestling match to be able to really pull off a phenomenal deathmatch like yourself do. So,
you know, that is the main key, what you just talked about, you know, to in deathmatch wrestling is telling a fucking story. You know, it don't mean shit if you're just out there swinging stuff. It don't mean nothing if you already blew your wad in the first 5 minutes of the match. You know what I'm saying? You got to tell the story on what you're building to, onto the next thing, you know, and build to the next thing and make them fans want to see it. When they do see it, then you get the explosion you want. If you give it all to them early, it don't matter. Then you lose the fans, and then you lose the match. If the fans are everything when it comes to working deathmatch wrestling.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing. You mentioned Ian Rotten and going to IWA Mid-South. You went there, and your introduction into hardcore deathmatch wrestling was against another deathmatch legend, Madman Pondo, who was supposed to wrestle someone else that night. But the guy he was wrestling didn't want to do the favors and do the job for him.
Correct.
So he sort of went, peace out, and you were placed into that match. How was that first match with Pondo, man? Did he take care of you, or was he like?
You know, Pondo is a true professional, man. You know what I'm saying? He's a funny dude if you're on the road with him. And when it comes to weapons and shit, man, there's nobody knows him any better than Pondo. Pondo's done everything there is to do, you know, as far as wrestling wise and gimmick matches. And like you said, Trailer Park Trash is a little bitch and didn't want to do the job to Pondo. And I happened to just be sitting in the locker room, and Ian looked at me. He was like, "Hey, man, we got this match." I was like, "Fuck it, man. This is what I'm gonna do it, man. I'm gonna do it good." And I showed out, man. I showed him out. You know what I'm saying? That this pretty boy guy can throw it down pretty well. And at the time, I was a pretty boy. Now I'm just a beat up fucking fat guy. But at that time, I was. Bro. Yeah. At that time, I was real skinny and pretty and all that shit, and the girls loved it and shit. And you know, before the 4,000 scores in my head now, and you know, that started it off, man. That gave me the rush, man. That crowd cheering and going crazy, and you know, like nothing I'd ever seen. And these were sold out shows, you know, 400, 500, 600 people at all the time at IWA back then.
So Kevin Rodriguez, a very good friend of mine, he runs another wrestling show called The War Room. He's saying, Corporal, he served as well. Thank you for your service, brother.
And thank you for your service, buddy. Thank you for your service, Kevin. I appreciate you as well.
So we talked about the match with Madman Pondo. Do you remember the stipulation for the match? Was it light tubes, tacks, no rope barbed wire?
I think we were doing a fans bring the. Let's see. I remember the show was called No Blood, No Guts, No Glory. I want to think it. I'm pretty sure. I know we used a bunch of light tubes and shit, but I'm thinking it was a fans bring the weapons match. I think that's what it was. I'm pretty positive of that. I could be mistaken. I've been hitting the head a lot over the last 26 years, so. But I'm pretty positive that's what it was. And we used a little bit of everything. I know there's a bunch of shit that I never even seen light tubes before till that night.
And how do you find when you go into a match where it's like fans bring the weapons? Do you find it it's hard to put a match together not knowing the elements that you have until the show starts?
Yeah, I mean, you got to trust who you're in there with. You know, that's the main thing. You know, the true art of deathmatch wrestling is being able to go home to the wife and kids after. That's the true art. The art's being able to take care of your opponents properly and then be okay at the end of it. Us give the best show, the craziest shit people's ever seen, and everybody go home at the end of the night. That's the art. You know, that's the true art of deathmatch wrestling. A lot of them guys can, you know, do the big flips and flops and do the regular wrestling, but they can't come in our world. Where I was benefited by, I could go in both lanes. I could work CM Punk one night and then work Necro Butcher Madman Pondo the next night. You know, work Adam Piers one night and then work freaking Hardcore Craig and them the next night. You know what I'm saying? So what I say to new deathmatch guys is be able to do all styles. The more styles you know and learn and know how to do properly and right, the better you're going to be.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's the thing. As I said, deathmatch wrestlers, you know, to be able to do it right and to be able to do it where it tells a story. Like I've been a fan of deathmatch wrestling for years, and I've seen some great matches and I've seen some not so great matches. You know, and we're talking about IWA Mid-South, who was really at the forefront of the deathmatch scene back in the late 90s and early 2000s. You know, those who don't know, Ian Rotten started the company in 1996. I think you joined around 1998. You know, what was your experiences, you know, obviously joining up with Ian Rotten and the IW Mid-South guys?
You know, it was a brotherhood there. You know what I'm saying? Everybody was working with everybody. And, you know, people can say a lot about Ian in there, but as far as talent and putting talent together and putting where they should be, and working with him. I worked him probably 1,000, maybe 2,000-3,000 times, Ian. And he taught me a lot when it came to doing death matches, you know what I'm saying, and doing them right, you know, putting the hard hitting strikes in the shit, you know what I'm saying, and doing things safely and right. As far as learning from Ian, you can't get no better, you know what I'm saying? Because the man is a genius when it comes to putting shows together. He was another Paul Heyman of his time as far as being able to put angles and shit together. And we had a hellacious awesome crew, you know, all the boys. I mean, we'd play softball together, we'd wrestle, we'd travel the country together. And if there was shit shows, we'd show up there and beat the piss out of them. You know, if there was backyard shows, we show up and try to teach guys. If the guys listened, they came with us. If they didn't, we beat the fuck out of them. You know, and that's kind of what was the crazy mentality back then, man. We was protecting our own. You know, and everybody was with everybody. You know, everybody was stepping up. Everybody wanted to top everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like it was a good time to be around and in the wrestling business was back then. You know, late 90s, early 2000s, man. That's when it all began to be really hot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you mentioned that early 2000 mark, which was really the boom of indie wrestling and especially deathmatch wrestling. You know, I can remember, you know, back then, those late 90s, like I'm 38 this year, and I remember like trying to like get tapes and DVDs and all that shit. And it was like there was no internet. So I was like making phone calls to the United States to like Combat Zone Wrestling, you know, trying to get tapes and XPW and shit like that. I couldn't get enough of it. My parents weren't too impressed that I was blowing up the phone bill, but fuck, I was happy, man. I was getting my deathmatch fix, homie. So
fuck yeah.
Yeah, so you know, IW Mid-South as well. You were able to go and work I'll get into more of the JCW stuff later.
Okay.
But you actually were able to do some straight wrestling matches, in JCW against one of the guys I probably determine as one of the best unsigned guys to ever do it, which was Trent Acid.
Yeah.
What was your thoughts of wrestling someone like Trent Acid, whose style was completely different to yours?
Yeah, I loved working with Trent. We had a major feud there in JCW, but we really got close at Pro Wrestling Unplugged. That was Ty Gordon's second fed he owned in Philadelphia. And that was a big deal, you know what I'm saying? Because they was bringing me in and pushing me heavy. I wasn't with CZW at the time, you know what I'm saying? And PWU was bringing me in every month, and I'm doing top-notch matches with everybody. So that's where me and Trent and Johnny and them guys and Todd Gordon got real close. Two Gold Scorpio, Pitbull, Gary, Gary Wolf, all them guys. And my first actual, I think, feud with Raven was there too, as well, in Pro Wrestling Unplugged. Me and Necro had tore it down. Me and Ian a few times, when I had their title belt. And me and Trent had gotten tight. So when I started doing the books with JCW, we put him in the whole Holy Trent Acid gimmick, the evil preacher, demonic preacher gimmick, man. And he was amazing, man. He was amazing. And, people can say what they want, man. When that music hit, man, Trent was on point. He was always on point, man. Always on point. And I had nothing but amazing matches with him every night.
Yeah, as I said, he's probably one guy that I think that really he was probably the greatest talent to never get signed.
He 100% should have been signed. There's no ifs, ands, buts about that.
Yeah,
they missed the boat there.
Yeah. I watch his shit still today, and I'm just mind blown with what he was doing, his whole gimmick and everything. He was just so good at what he did. But moving on, you first got introduced into Combat Zone Wrestling, where yourself and I think it was Madman Pondo and Ian Rotten stormed the ring.
It was actually J.C. Bailey.
J.C. Bailey, my apologies. Another great young talent.
Correct.
Who left us way too soon.
Way too soon.
You guys stormed the ring. It was John Zandig was in the ring, and he was having a match against Rockin' Rebel. And it was hot as fuck inside that ECW arena, that what I've heard. And it was about 12:30 at night. The crowd were almost fucking flat. And then as soon as you guys stormed through the front door, you guys really then, popped everyone. Everyone was like, holy shit. And then to bring in Zandig's wife and to make her see there while you were stapling the shit out of his chest and his face with the staple guns. What was it like to hit the arena there and to obviously be at their home turf in CZW? And
it was a privilege to be there with them guys. I had been talking shit months earlier. Me and Mitch Page was doing our feud, the big feud with me and Mitch Page at IWA Mid-South, where the House of Horrors and all that shit was coming in. And I was trying to elevate deathmatch wrestling. So I was talking shit like, you all can't hold us. Y'all are nothing compared. You know what I'm saying? So I was talking major shit, hyping up IWA, that we were the kings of doing deathmatch wrestling. And to go into that arena in their home turf, it being the ECW arena itself, and Zandig faved everybody. They didn't even know nothing. I ended up kicking out a cop window that night. Y'all probably seen that on tape. I kicked out the fucking window in the cop car, all kind of shit. But it was hot, man. It was super hot, man. That angle was unbelievable and could have been even bigger. You know what I mean? That was one of the most fun times I ever had, in the business. That was definitely one of the highlights, was coming in, and I nailed the door shut in the locker room. I did that, so none of the boys could get out. You know what I'm saying? So, and then I hit, with JC and Ian already in there. I think I knocked out 3 security guys that night and everything. It was 100%. This shit's really going down, and that crowd felt it, man. They knew it. They knew it was the real deal. It just hit the building.
Yeah, that's one thing. That feud and that invasion angle is probably one of the best invasion angles in professional wrestling that I can really recall. And I encourage everybody to go back and really rewatch those shows between IWA Mid-South and CZW, because you see so much talent in those shows. And those matches it's almost like both sides had a point to prove to the fans, but also to each other. And that's one thing, like, then going on and going on to that feud, you did Extreme 8, where you competed in there against the CZW guys. And then you went into Tournament of Death 2. Now, Tournament of Death 2, and I want to get your opinion on this. Why the fuck were IW Mid-South guys going up against IW Mid-South guys?
Bro, that is the goddamn mystery of the fucking century right there, because you should have seen my heart break when I walked in and seen I was wrestling Dylan. You know what I'm saying? I'm wrestling Necro Butcher. And I was like, fuck, like, let me put Nikki over. Let me put, you know what I'm saying? Let's do something big here. You know what I'm saying? I was hoping that's what it would, or, Mondo, or, you know what I'm saying? Hate or somebody, you know what I'm saying? Somebody CZW stuff. And I love Necro. I love him to death to this day. I love Dylan. But that particular night, and me and Dylan wrestled a billion times already anyway, everywhere. We were like married at that time in Detroit and everywhere. I was hoping to wrestle a CZW guy, you know what I'm saying? Because the angle was so hot. So, that was one of my regrets of the whole angle, was not really, I mean, I worked Messiah and them at IWA Mid-South, you know what I'm saying? Like we stuck with it down there. But for Tournament of Death, I was hoping to work a CZW guy. So I still to this day don't know why they put us against each other. I don't know.
Yeah, because I was actually just rewatching it the other night, that show, and I'm just sitting there going, it's a fucking invasion angle, man. Like, let's see Corp against Zandig or Nate Hatred or Messiah or someone. Like, give us fucking like, it just felt like a show that was thrown together. And no disrespect to the talent, because the talent pulled off a great fucking show.
Yeah, unbelievable, great show. But I just think that it could have been done a little differently, but back then I wasn't the book and I had nothing to do with any of that. I was doing what the fuck I was told and doing it the best of my ability.
And that's all you can do, man. And you definitely showed out, and, those matches that you had, and, and sort of not to sort of go back, but when I was watching Extreme 8, that bump you took on the fucking concrete where the guy suplexed you over the top of his head, man, I was watching it last night. I was like, like I felt, I was like, that's nasty,
Yeah.
That was
me and Necro used to do that to the floor all the time. From the top rope to the damn floor.
How do you, like, I just saw Necro on the CZW Hall of Fame, man. He does not look too good, man.
Yeah, he's got a major health problem, you know what I'm saying? And we're praying for him every day. But there's not much, from what I'm being told, not much we can do, you know what I'm saying? Dylan lived his life the way he wanted to live it, and he liked to drink, and that was his thing. That's what calmed him, and that's what he did. And it just sucks. You know what I mean? It's another brother I might have to end up burying soon.
Yeah, it's terrible to hear, and I've always been a big fan. But one question that I've always wanted to know about deathmatch wrestlers is, when I was younger, I used to really love deathmatch wrestling. I was like, fuck, this is the thing. Now, as an older adult, I watch it and go, why the fuck would you put yourself through that? And I'm not, and that's not an attack, but it's more of a question I want to ask is, what is it about deathmatch wrestling that draws you to it?
Well, reality. You know what I'm saying? It's a reality, and it's something inside you. You want to always top yourself. You always want to top what you've done before. And by God, I set that bar high. I kept setting that motherfucker real high, and each time, you just want to go out and do a better job. for them fans, because deathmatch fans are some of the most loyal, best fans in the world. They are. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. And you just want to put that show the best you can. And some nights, there's certain gimmicks and things you're thinking, well, fuck, this will do it. I can, what I'm saying? This is going to be the shit. They're going to love this. And then, 6 hours later, you're going, what the fuck was I thinking doing that? But, at that particular time, with the adrenaline rushing and everything going, you don't give two fucks about nothing but putting on that great show.
Has a promoter ever come to you and said, hey, Corp, I got this idea for a stip in a match, and you've gone, I don't fucking know about that one, homie?
Yeah, well, in my later years, in my earlier years, never. In my later years, I've already done the shit. So I'd be like, like, I'll do that, but it's going to cost you this. And he'll be like, oh, well, no, I just want to pay you. All right, well, then I'm going to do this. And, that's where we hit off the bidding process of, yeah, I can do that, brother, but if I'm gonna do that, you're gonna pay me this. But and that always seems to catch them to backpedal. They always want to backpedal there once you put a price tag on what it's gonna cost them to do that, then they backpedal out of that a little bit. Because they got John Rutz over here that'll do that for $30. Why are they going to pay me $150 to do it? You know what I'm saying?
Well, exactly. Leave it for the young guys to do. But yeah, exactly. Sometimes people want champagne for beer money. You know what I mean? So
right.
Life doesn't work that way, especially when.
Hang on! Shout out to Richard Lane, man. Thanks for the smoke. And Gary Emmett, man, we love you, buddy. He's going through a rough time right now. AWR. I know that it's a fake Facebook user, but I know who that was.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
That's AWR promoter and livelihood right there. Yeah. It's love you too, Gary.
Yeah, man. If there's any questions from anyone who's viewing this show, you want to ask Corp something, feel free to fire away, and we'll definitely ask those questions. And I'm sure Corp is more than willing to answer them. So we talk about obviously the time in CZW and the matches there, and you went on to have a few extra matches after that, the invasion angle, and you mentioned having matches against Billy Welch or Messiah.
Yeah.
How did you find going up against and having matches with some of these CZW guys? Did you find that they were a little bit reluctant? Did you feel like that was sometimes going to be a bit of a shoot?
No, man. That was the thing with me. There was never none of that. I've heard certain guys complain about different things. Man, I never had a fucking problem with any of them. Any of them. Not one fucking issue with Messiah, Gage, hatred, any of them. I've never had an unprofessional dealing with none of that crew. They've always been professional. They've always worked hard. I've always had great matches with the whole crew on the East Coast, man. I worked Tremont years later, but Tremont was great. All of them are true professionals, man. Those legend tags you put on people, most of them have earned it, and they're there for a reason.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing. It's the Combat Zone Wrestling guys back then, and especially the IWA Mid-South guys as well. Those angles, and I think the wrestlers that that performed on those shows made it absolutely amazing. And you said as well, it could have been done a little bit differently as far as promoting goes. And from what I've heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was kind of like you got two massive egos with Zandig and Ian.
Yeah.
Is there any funny stories you want to tell us about, the interactions that you may have seen with those guys?
Well, that was the thing. When them two did their thing, man, it wasn't around none of the boys. You know what I'm saying? So, they weren't letting either locker room see either one, bail or cow, you know what I'm saying? So, you'd hear them both say shit under their breath here and there, drinking at the bar later, but it was never no unprofessional side. It wasn't no screaming through the locker room. No, hey, fuck you, we're doing it. None of that shit, man. That shit didn't fly. It just didn't go. Most of the horror stories that you hear about us older guys, man, were guys that were unsafe, or guys that came in with egos, or guys that didn't want to fucking put the other guy over, which is fucking the most retardedest shit I've ever heard of. Unless, unless that person had a reason, they're getting pushed up through the roof and, it's going to hurt their status. That's the only times I can see bitching about a job, But as far as that shit didn't go down like that, John and John both talked, either on the phone or talked when they were by themselves, but they never had no issues, in front of the boys. In front of the boys, that shit didn't happen.
Absolutely. So Kevin Rodriguez has got another question for you. So he says, watching 9/11 made him want to join the army. What was it that drew you into the military, and where were you stationed?
I was in a few different places, and what drew the honest to God story on how I got in the military was I'd gotten a full scholarship to play baseball at IU. And in a small town like where I grew up was, if you played sports, you get, my grades were pretty much given to me. So I didn't go. Once I made all state my sophomore year, I didn't go back to class my sophomore, junior, or senior year. I just went around and did errands for teachers, and went and got fucking food at lunch, and then I'd run errands all day, and I'd be in the batting cage or in the gym shooting basketball. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I did. I didn't do much study. So when I got to college, I thought it was going to be the same thing. I thought, what I'm saying, as long as I perform on the baseball diamond, I'm good. They're going to take care of me here. A little blue chip style. I thought, what I'm saying, a little cash would come, and I could just show up, get drunk, bang girls, and play good on the baseball diamond. Well, in college, they don't give a fuck about that. They don't give two fucks who you are. They don't care what what sport you're playing. You got to go to class. You got to do your homework and shit, or they're going to flunk you. Well, midway through, of course, I hadn't went to one fucking class. I hadn't went to nothing. So the coach came and was like, look, man, we're going to have to pull your scholarship. You're flunking out, and I didn't want that, the shame on my parents and everything. It's a small town, what I'm saying, on me just going to college and fucking it up. And on the way out, there was a Marine Corps recruiter there. And he seen I was upset and pissed. He's like, let me talk to you a minute. I'm like, man, I ain't in the mood to fucking talk. I just lost my scholarship and all that. He goes, well, hang on. We can pay you to play baseball. And I went, ding. I went, what? He's like, yeah, you got to go through boot camp in Paris Island. He goes, but you make it through boot camp, we'll pay you to play baseball. Like the Navy team plays football and all that. I bought into it hook, line, and sinker. I'm like, well, fuck, that's what I'm doing. So I sweared in on a Friday, went to the MEPS on Saturday, and I shipped out that Sunday. And I told my parents that Sunday morning that I was going to Paris Island. Well, of course, they were pissed and crying and fucking like, what the hell are you doing? You're going to die there. But the other reason, was all my other family members had been in the Army and the Navy. There was never no Marine. So I'm thinking, all right, well, one, I'll be the first Marine, and two, they're going to pay me to play baseball. Well, so I get to boot camp, and I'm seeing people drop. We started with 300 back in. Well, we graduated 30. So they're wailing through people. But the good thing was I was already in shape, from sports. So I was already in really good shape. So that part of it didn't give me. I just had to learn how to shoot an M16A2 real good. And that was my only first hold up, but I got pretty good at that too, shooting motherfuckers. So I ended up graduating, and I'm sitting there, and they're giving out everybody's orders. It's last night on Paris Island. They're giving what school you're going to go to and all that. And I'm sitting there, he comes to Robinson. He's like, Robinson, SOI, Campus Junior, North Carolina, Camp Geiger. And I'm like, no, sir, that's wrong. They messed up. He said, what the fuck do you mean they messed up? They don't mess up. I'm like, sir, they messed up. He goes, you signed open contracts. So I graduated number 2 in my platoon. So where the hell you think they're going to put me? So, I never seen a baseball diamond in the Marine Corps. Never once ever seen a baseball diamond. But I played a little bit of football there, and I learned how to fight real well. So that's my thing on the military. And I was in Lejeune. I was in Albany, Georgia. I was in Bosnia for 6 months. We went to Okinawa, but I never got to get off the boat because it was when the Navy guy had raped that girl, and they kept us. I never even got to get off, so I never get to see shit there. So I don't really count that as the time I was there. It was just in between going to another spot. And then I was in 29 Palms for a little bit, and then came back home.
So they promised you the world and gave you something completely different, huh?
Yeah, well, they didn't. They just told me they were going to pay me to play baseball, and that did not happen. They didn't give two fucks about my baseball career in the Marine Corps.
And it's almost like the recruiter was like, "Oh, hello there, young fella."
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He got He got his shit in.
Exactly. One of the things I wanted to ask as well, you had an opportunity to team up with Sabu on a couple of occasions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how was that experience? And did you learn much from teaming with Sabu?
Well, I learned more wrestling him. I wrestled Sabu. He dropped the world title to me in Detroit before he went back to ECW. And Sabu didn't do jobs back then. So for him to actually put somebody over then at the time was massive. It was massive for my career. It was a sold out show at the Armada Hall. We were doing actually the lynch mob gimmick. I seen somebody put lynch mob. That's what we were doing. The lynch mob was myself, Too Tough Tony, and Cash Flow. And then Necro and Pondo were part of it in the very beginning. But it ended up coming down to just me, Tony, and Cash there forever. But that's where Joe and Joey had actually saw me, was that match that night. Sabu and them were real tight. With Sabu, I'd wrestled him one time early with KCW. Him and Rob wrestled me and Blaze. And that was a spot fest. A shit that, and the funnier part about that was my introduction of smoking weed and everything before a match, because when we're going over the match, Rob and Sabu had one rolled, and they're like, you got to hit this with us. So I'm fucking all right, whatever. And then the funnier story about that is Sabu pulls out some pills. He's like, well, here, kid, take a couple of these. Well, I'm like, all right, well, it's Sabu, so I just take them. I didn't look at what they was or nothing like that. I just ate them, not realizing they were somas. So, midway through the match, me doing 1,000,001 spots, I'm getting like stupid tired. Like I'm just like barely hanging on. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? What the fuck's on? Well, we get through the match and I get in the back and Sabu's laughing. He's like, kid, you got to pay attention to what the fuck somebody gives you. This is a lesson learned, man. You can't just take shit people give you. He goes, we almost soma coached you. I was like, oh my God. So that was my first introduction to Sabu. And then a few years later, I'm wrestling him again in Detroit. For some reason, I ended up being the one that always wrestled him when he came into Huck's show. And then, of course, years later, we ended up tagging together a lot. Him and New Jack. I seem to be tagging with New Jack all the time too, at that point in time. So and New Jack was crazy, man. He's always ready to beat up somebody.
Gimmick with that dude, man. No gimmick. Like from what I've heard,
there's no gimmick whatsoever. I mean, somebody always pissed him off in the locker room talking shit. You know what I'm saying? They wasn't even talking to him, but it was. And everybody's, Corp, go calm down, fucking New Jack. Well, motherfucker, y'all gonna get me stabbed. But that never happened. It was all good. It was cool. Me and Jack were always good. Me and Sabu were always good. And Sabu was great about putting shit in places that it should be. That he was one of the guys that reiterated that fact. And he liked the fact I could go, you know what I'm saying? And I didn't bitch about nothing. He could slam me in the head, put me through chair tables, do all kind of shit. And afterwards, I'm going to say, thank you, sir. So no matter what we did, I just never wanted to fuck up. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, he can fuck up. That's fine. I won't bitch about that. But I just didn't want to be the one fucking up, missing a spot or something. So,
oh, absolutely. Him being the veteran out in that situation, of course.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And that was rare for me, at that point in my career, because most of the time I was the veteran calling the matches. You know what I'm saying? And at that point, when you're wrestling guys like him and like the other guys that I've wrestled, you know what I'm saying, that you just shut your mouth and listen, and do what they want to do. If they ask for something, then you give them what they want to go, and you give your best when you're in there, and plus you bump your ass off. I think Scott Hall, Matt, when I wrestled Scott Hall, I bumped like 47 times in that match.
Jeez. You mentioned Scott Hall, and one of the things I saw recently where Scott Hall was doing a Q&A, and he said that you actually saved his life, where one night he was, pretty much ready to jump out a fucking window. He was, in a really bad place. And then next, as he was about to sort of step out that window, you gave him a phone call and said, hey, man, come party with your family.
Right. Yep. That's a true story.
Yeah.
And I got in a couple calls that Scott wasn't doing well. So I was like, fuck it, man, we got to bring him back. And I just happened to call that night. You know what I'm saying? Me and Scott gotten real close. We haven't talked in a few years. I'd love to again. But there for a while, we were talking daily, at least once or twice, kind of like me and my buddy Richard do now. You know what I'm saying? Like it was a daily thing. You know, I knew what was going on in his life. He knew what was going on in mine. And that's just kind of way it went. I love Scott, man. I love it. It was a pleasure working with him all them years. It's a pleasure working with him after. He's always going to be a brother in my eyes.
And you actually were in a faction with him in JCW, the JWO, the Juggalo World Order.
Yeah,
that to me, I remember like seeing bits and pieces about that in magazines and like trying to get tapes.
Yeah,
and seeing the Juggalo World Order. Who came up with that whole story and that statement?
It was Joe and myself and Scott. Really, you know what I'm saying? That's kind of how it went out. And then we started inducting people. You know what I mean? So first time we did it was in Evansville, Indiana, right before Bloody Mania. After the second Bloody Mania, setting up, I think, for me and Vampiro, or it was me and Raven. I don't remember. It was one of the two. It was either me or Vamp or me and Raven, one of the two. And yeah, I think it was me and Raven because I think I'd wrestled Sexy Slim Goody, and that's after they had shaved my head. When I had the big afro going, and the lights went off. Yeah. I only grew it out one time, and Joanna paid me a lot of money to grow that bitch because I got some curly ass motherfucking hair. I always told my mom, you had to sleep with a black guy that night, didn't you? Because my hair is just afro curly. You know what I'm saying? For real, man. It's bushed out. Like they called me Fro in high school. And there ain't nobody in my family got an afro like that but me. So it's like, I was like, Ma, tell me the truth, man. Who was the milkman, dude? For real. But, Stephen Michael, start up. What are you talking about? But, it's a true story, man. It's a true story. But, yeah, Joe and them wanted me to grow that bitch out, and I did. And the Juggalos got way behind it, man. They loved me coming up, but I was so fucking irritated because it was in summer, too. So it's hot as a bitch. And here I am doing shows and concerts, getting Fago all over it every night. On top of it, I'm out working all day long, putting our shit together and making sure Joe and Joey are safe. And I got this big ass motherfucking afro, you know what I mean? And my shit's used to be in shade like it is now, and that's just the way I always wore it. So, yeah, that was a pain in the ass. I was real happy to see Raven that night to shave my head. I was super happy. I was mad as fuck on tape, but in real life, I was cheering like a motherfucker.
So we're just going to go to a quick question from one of our viewers, Rick Santiago. How was it working with Vampiro? What were you on that?
He was phenomenal. Yeah. He's a legend that he is. Actually, everything we did was flawless. And it was hard because that's the first time Juggalo's ever seen Juggalo versus Juggalo. You know what I'm saying? That was two of their top baby faces going at it for the world title. You know what I'm saying? And the biggest stage there is, which was at the Gathering at the time, in front of 10,000 people. And the fact that Vamp was a true professional through the whole thing. We worked solid with each other, and we were good friends. I heard he's got an illness now too. It was nothing but an honor to work with him. Nothing but an honor.
Yeah, and you mentioned working with the Clowns, ICP, and you were more than just a professional wrestler for them. You pretty much were their personal bodyguard. You did a lot of stuff. You had the book in JCW for a period of time as well.
Yeah.
How did you get to working with them?
Well, they saw me that night at the Wrestling Sabu. And Joe and Tony were pretty tight, and they invited us over after the show. And Joe had fired either one or two of their security guys. And they were getting ready to leave on tour, and I'd had a little break. And he just offered me the security gig. He goes, "Man, you ever thought about, being a security guard? You know what I'm saying? Watching people?" Well, fuck no, but what's the pay? And, that's how I did it, and I just came in as a low security dude, man. For years, fans never even knew I wrestled there. You know what I'm saying? They didn't have no clue. So I was on the road, just doing security and then coming home and doing shows. You know what I'm saying? Like the fans themselves didn't have a clue until me and Joe got to talking real deep, and then he realized exactly who I was and what I did. And then that's when we did the whole Rudy had left, and we did the whole retransformation of JCW, which in my opinion was probably the hottest time ever JCW was.
Oh, absolutely, and I completely agree. And how did you find, obviously, going to those shows and being around such, passionate hardcore fans like the Juggalos? Were they demanding at all as far as what you expected in the ring?
They were very loyal, you know what I'm saying, at the time. And there was thousands of them, so it was quick. I always made myself I'd always would go sign autographs or hang out with kids or do that little extra shit all them years. You know what I'm saying? Like took care of people on tickets, all that shit, just so they could get a face with who it was. You know what I'm saying? And see that I was real. I kept my, you know what I'm saying? Who I said I was who I was at all times. And just taking the few extra minutes to sign their shit and hang with them, man, they adored you for it. Now we didn't have all the time in the world sometimes because we were doing shows, but every minute I had of the day, I'd spend it trying to be with the fans. And that's kind of what I've done my whole career, really. Because without them, you ain't shit. You know what I'm saying? Without the fans, we're nothing. We're nobody. It doesn't matter who the fuck Joe Rowe is. You know what I'm saying? It's the people that bought the ticket to the show that matters. So every time I could take a minute or two to sign this or talk or do an interview with them or do anything, I always took it.
Yeah, that's incredible, and that's the one thing I always loved about the watching some of those JCW shows, just seeing how passionate those fans were. And I'd probably put the Juggalo fans right up there with that Philadelphia crowd, man.
They are very similar. It's a very similar atmosphere. One thing, man, if you can get over in Philadelphia, you can get over. You know what I'm saying? Because that crowd will shit on you in a second if you're fucking up or if your gimmick's retarded or whatever. Any reason they can, they're going to eat you alive unless they see you're the real deal. If you're the real deal, you'll get through it just fine. If you're not, if you're a poser, they will light you up. Them in New York are the same kind of way. You know what I'm saying? Like, New York, I think New York goes to try to fucking school shit. You know what I'm saying? Like their whole deal is wanting to be able to school somebody. In Philly, they just do it when you fuck up. You know what I'm saying? Or if you know what I'm saying, if you're doing dumb shit in the ring or whatever the reason may be, that they will call you on it in a heartbeat.
Yeah. And, obviously, you worked with the Juggalos for quite a while.
Yeah, over a decade.
And then you had one match where you got really badly injured, which kind of led to the departure of JCW. Do you want to sort of tell us a little bit about that, brother?
Well, it wasn't even a wrestling show that I gotten hurt on. It was at the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York. And it was the second last night to the, I think it may have been Happy Days tour. I'm not 100% which one. Maybe American Psychos. It's one of the two. I think maybe American Psychos. I think it might have been. But I was at the corner right part of the stage, and we were getting kids up, to come on at the very end for the finale. And a stagehand with a camera kicked my leg out from under me, and I dropped 19 feet on my head. If y'all know the stage at the Hammerstein Bar is super high, and I landed straight on my head. Well, I woke up in the hospital, and I looked at the clock, and I realized when I set bus call. You know what I'm saying? If you miss bus call, you're you know what I'm saying? Then everybody goes. Plus, I'm in charge of everything. You know what I'm saying? So it was my job to make sure everybody was there, and then I'm the one person that ain't there. So I woke up with IVs and everything in my head, them telling me not to go nowhere, and I ripped everything out. I ripped it all out. Boom, boom, boom. I'm leaving this motherfucker. I got to get somewhere. Not realizing how bad I was injured, which I come to find out a day later. The next night, I'm wrestling Bull Payne in a no-rope barbed wire tables match.
Jesus.
And we kill it. Everything's cool, but I'm kind of getting lightheaded and all this shit throughout it. Bull thought he did something to me, which never. Bull Payne is a true professional and unbelievable guy to work with. So he had thought, I'd gotten hurt during the match. I'd gotten home at that time to where my wife was. And my little daughter was really little, like 3, 4, maybe I think she was 5. and I went up the stairs to give her a hug, and I collapsed. Woke up in the hospital again. Come to find out, I'd been leaking spinal cord fluid in my body for over 48 hours, which normally would have killed most people. And they didn't think I was going to be able to walk at the time. You know what I'm saying? That I was even going to get all that back. So I was laid up for a long time out of that one. Ended up fusing my neck and doing a bunch of different shit, but they ended up getting to the bottom of it. But yeah, that was a good 6-8 year probably I was off because of that injury.
And what was it that obviously about that that really sort of made you sort of step away from JCW and the Juggalos?
Well, a few things that happened, but at that point in time in my life, I was really bad on pills. We had been taking them on the road a lot. I was injured and doing shows, and I was just making stupid ass mistakes. You know what I'm saying? Doing dumb shit. You know. Then the thing with the gathering had happened. You know what I mean? Where they cut off the guest list, and then people that were supposed to be getting in, they wouldn't let in, which had done giving us pills and shit like that. You know, throughout the year. That was the departure. You know what I'm saying? It was just like, and I blame myself for that, letting myself get too fucked up. You know what I'm saying? I was overworking myself. I was injured. I was hurt. I was just trying to take more shit. You know what I'm saying? And that was a major fuck up on my end.
Yeah. Do you still speak to the clowns?
No, I haven't talked to him since that day. It's been probably almost, let's see, we're talking 2013 maybe.
So Facebook user, yes, you are allowed to ask questions. Please ask away. Click the link above to allow StreamYard access so we can see your name and so Corp can see who's asking him the questions. But yeah, fire away and we will get to them. So one of the other major promotions, say major, in the early 2000s was XPW, which was run by the porno king himself, Rob Black.
Yeah.
You never end up working there. Were you ever contacted to go over?
There were some talks about coming in for them, and then it just didn't pan out. You know what I'm saying? That was right. I was really hot with JCW and IWA Mid-South at that time, and I didn't. It just didn't work. I ended up working for all them guys after that. You know, after XPW closed for UEW, Andre Verdun and them guys. But no, I thought for sure it was going to happen because I was super hot at that time. But it ended up not happening.
Yeah, it seemed like that was just one promotion that could really never, they got a lot of talent there, but they could never really pull the plug out and sort of do much with it,
Right.
And that was the thing. I think that, they just brought in a lot of big names, but didn't really know how to really put the shows together. Gene, one of our viewers wants to know what's your favorite match to date, Corp?
Oh shit, man, that's a hard one because I've had so many unbelievable matches with people. You know what I'm saying? For different reasons. Me and Mitch Page, the first ones ever to do, Pull of Leeches and House of Horrors and electric lights around the ring. Me and John Wayne Murdoch's no rope flaming barbed wire match was unbelievable. Me and fucking Masada at the first ever NGI 1 with the window panes all around the ring, man, that shit was hot. Sabu, Scott Hall, Vamp, just some of the ones you've already mentioned, and tons that I'm misplacing right now that were just phenomenal matches.
Yeah, it's hard to just name one after a 20-year career, so
yeah, I'm sitting on like 24 plus right now, so it's like just naming one particular. I'd say those are definitely. What was that? I don't know what that was.
Oh, sorry, I was just letting you finish your thought.
No, it's fine. I see something pop up on the screen and then vanished on me.
Yeah, no, I just took it away. Sorry, I'll bring it back up. So, Facebook user, I respect you. but I'm going to give you a hell of a fight. But my question is, who would you like to work in your last match? I think you're a long way off your last match, Corp.
Yes, I am. Who would I like to work in my last match?
The Facebook user, click so we can see who's asking the question.
Yeah, you're gonna have to wait to see. But the person that I want to wrestle is who I'm going to wrestle in the last match. But we're not gonna give that to you already. You know what I'm saying? I'm still many moons from completely retiring. I'm not doing deathmatch tournaments. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing spot shows. They're there at them, or you know what I'm saying? I'm hosting AWR's big one. April. Let's see. Hang on. April 10th and 11th, and then like I said, I got a gang load of shows coming up. So yeah, that's a little far off. I don't know. There's a list on that too. You know what I'm saying? There's a list on that. It depends on who's the promoter that night and what they're wanting to spend, and a lot of different things factor into that.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, being around in the business for as long as you have, you know, and I'm sure the wrestling business is famous for having some not so trustworthy characters in the business, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know, have you ever had some bad experiences dealing with promoters, whether they, you know, have short paid you or
Of
anything?
course. It's the wrestling business, of course.
Yeah.
You know, there's some I beat the fuck out of. There's some, you know, that you all heard stories about. And there's some that, you know, you eat it and don't go back. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, it's the wrestling business. So if a wrestler says, no, I've never been shorted in my life, he's lying. Because every one of us heard the tickets were low tonight, man. We didn't quite get what we thought through the door. And that's about all I can do right now. And you got two choices there. You either break his jaw and take the rest of it, or two, you suck it up and hopefully get you on the next one.
Well, I suppose it depends on the relationship that you've got with the promoter as well, you know, and you know, if it's someone that you've known and you know they're going to sort of, you know, fix you up later on down the road, you know, then you have that trust with them. So, but we got another question. So he knows who I am. He knows who I am. Old school versus today's generation. No need to show who I am.
Oh, okay. I think I know who that is. We'll take out Mr. Cummings. I'll deal with you later there, buddy. So, boo if you love it's his hashtag. So if it's not, then it's somebody stealing his shit. But yeah, I'm gonna throw down with that youngster. To give him a couple things. He's probably gonna get a lot of lottery punches and sent straight to boot camp, but that's all right.
Jeez, man. Jeez.
The fans will enjoy.
Exactly. And that's absolutely one thing that you always seem to do is deliver for your fans in your matches. I can't recall watching a Corporal Robinson match where I walked away going, well, that was fucking boring.
Yeah.
Always been, you know, and as you said, you wanted to make it as believable as possible.
Every time.
Yeah, look, Corp, you've been with us for almost an hour now, and I don't want to take up too much more of your time. You've been very gracious in giving us your time. You know, where can people find you on social media?
Well, you can check my Facebook page, which is Stephen Robinson. I got a brand new website that's about to launch. It's going to be massive. Richard Lang is going through. He's doing unbelievable with what he's doing there. And the new Size Hour shirts, which I don't know if y'all can see it quickly right here, from Japan. He is a legend in himself. But this is a brand new version that's never been launched out. And it's going to be hot. So stay tuned when we do the big launch on that. And like I said, man, I'm here anytime y'all need me, Bob. I'm here anytime y'all need me.
That's awesome, man. No, we appreciate your time. One thing that we like to do here on Shooting the Shit Uncensored is obviously I'm Australian. I'm interviewing professional wrestlers from America. So I'm going to throw out a few Australian sayings, and I want to know if you'll be able to tell me what it is. So it might be sayings, words, or slang. So.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. It's okay. So
Here we go. All right, shoot it.
If I say I'm going to go get on the piss, what am I saying?
You're going to get on the piss?
Yeah.
I'm going to go get on the piss. Means you're going to go take a leak.
No, it means I'm going to go drink some alcohol and get fucked up.
Oh, okay. Well, I missed that one.
Yeah. No worries. Another one I would say is, all right. So, fuck, that's rooted.
Fuck, that's rooted. Yeah, I would say just by the way we're going means you liked it. It was dope.
No, it means that's broken.
Well, see?
Or I could say is, oh fuck, mate, I had a big night on the piss. I am rooted, which means
okay.
I'm rat shit.
Yeah,
So,
I wouldn't have a fucking clue what you were saying there.
Yeah, she bangs like a dunny door in the wind.
Like a dummy door in the wind means, well, she bangs pretty good because a dummy door means it's flapping pretty fast, right?
A dunny door, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a pretty good thing. Shit, yeah, she bangs like that. I think we're hopping on it.
Yeah, exactly. So, look, we'll leave it at that, Corporal Robinson. Thank you so much for joining me. This has been a long dream of mine to be able to sit down and shoot the shit, no pun intended, with you. Corp, thank you so much for coming on. If you have please get out, support Corp. We'll be posting up links to his website when it launches. He'll make sure to send that through to me. Make sure you get those Corporal Robinson shirts. Make sure you get out, support independent wrestling, support deathmatch wrestling, support all fucking wrestling because we're all wrestling fans. So, guys, thank you so much for joining me. Corp, hang
Thank
fire,
you, brother.
disconnect, and
have a good night, buddy.
Thank you. One sec.